Some men are just lying, manipulating, no good, good for nothing, horrible people looking to take advantage of you. And the reality is that I do not want you getting caught up with that kind of man. So I'm going to help you by letting you know the 5 behaviors of a man who lies. Now, again, let me make this very clear as always. Every man is not a liar. Well, let me backtrack that. Every person on the face of this earth has told a lie. All right? If you're honest with yourself, all right, you've done it at least once in your life. I'm not saying that it may have been as bad as some others, but a lie is a lie. I think everyone has done it at least once. But this video isn't about the average person who may lie here and there, which I'm not validating or approving. I'm just saying that's what happens. This is about the pattern of behavior, the constant lying, the constant manipulating, the man who has bad intentions, who has no desire to give you clarity and peace and be transparent with you. He's simply trying to play you. So there are consistent behaviors that these men tend to have that I want you to be aware of. And of course, there's a bonus thing I need you to hear at the very end that's extremely important. All right? So now let's get to it. Number 1 behavior of a man who lies is he can't tell the same story twice. So here's the thing. People who lie tend to be inconsistent when they're telling their lie. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people out there are very good liars and they get their story straight so that if they have to repeat it, they don't have any deviances from what they said. However, a lot of people are not great liars. A lot of people cannot keep up with the story they told. So when you ask them more than once, there's going to be variations in their story. Now, I don't want to sit here and say the second a man gives you a variation in the story, that he is automatically some horrible manipulating liar. I am saying it's a red flag. And if you follow my videos, then you know red flags are things to follow up on, are things to address, not to just cut them off and run. Let's dig a little deeper. We have to also take a full picture. If this man has been awesome in every way and he doesn't exhibit any of the other behaviors I'm about to list, because typically liars will exist at least 2 or more of these behaviors. But if he doesn't if he doesn't engage in any of these other behaviors, then it is very possible that this is just, an isolated incident. Maybe he forgot a certain detail that he remembered the second time. Possible. But again, pay attention to their ability to be consistent with their story. Now, I don't want you to ask them 5 times because then that looks really bad. But there's nothing wrong with bringing it back up. And as a woman, you're aware. You're very aware to the details. So I know you're going to be able to catch it if it happens. You just have to take an initiative to maybe ask a second time to regain clarity, but to see, can the story stay the same? And let me add kind of a 1B to this. Not only can they not tell the same story twice, they lie about the little things. All right? A lot of people, again, there are people who tell these quote unquote white lies and they validate it by it being a quote unquote white lie. However, there are individuals who lie for no reason. Like they're just lying about stuff that there was no purpose in even lying. Like it wasn't even like it was going to be a big deal. There was no concern. There was no need to give a false narrative, yet they still did it. And there's a consistent pattern of that. That shows someone who may be a habitual liar. All right. And for some reason, they just feel the need to create a story. Again, you got to find out, you got to address that red flag, because that is an issue and that is a behavior of a man who lies a lot. All right. Second behavior of a man who lies is he's very distant and emotionally unavailable. Now, again, let me phrase it like this. Is any man who is distant or emotionally unavailable a flat out liar and manipulator? No. Some people are just, they have deeper issues. Some people may not be comfortable with you. Very possible. But what I am saying is, if he's a liar, he's typically not the most open and transparent person. He's typically going to be very distant, very secretive. All right. He's going to show this behavior. And again, like I said, The liar is going to typically show at least 2 or more of these behaviors. So it's one thing for him to just be emotionally unavailable and distant, which the arguments can still be made if he's doing that, liar or not, while you're dealing with him. Because you can't have a great relationship or a successful, healthy relationship with a man who's emotionally unavailable and a man who's very distant. So regardless, that's a red flag, needs to be addressed. And if it can't be corrected, you're going to have to walk away. But in regards specifically to him being a liar and a manipulator, again, liars and manipulators do engage in this emotional unavailability because it makes it easier. Basically, the less I let you in, the less I have to lie about. The less I have to even come up with different stories. It's easier just to shut you out and keep things in secret. So I don't have to try to explain it. And then when you try to ask me, why don't you let me in? I can deflect. I can throw all kinds of different stories at you. I can somehow still end up with not letting you in. And that still shows that that's an individual who, when he is a liar, that is a typical behavior he will engage in. So be mindful of that. But again, address it, address it, address it. Third on this list of behaviors of a man who lies, before I give you the third one, real quick, he's lying, sis. Perfect book for this video. Makes perfect sense. Get your copy. Link below in the description or in the comments section. First one that you'll see down there. Women are loving the book, finding it extremely helpful. It breaks down a lot of different scenarios that women have gone through and understanding the lies, understanding how to handle it. And it goes a lot more in depth than that. So again, he's lying, sis. Check it out. So back to number 3. He doesn't take personal accountability. Listen, liars and manipulators do not hold themselves accountable. They got every excuse in the book. They're always making it about it's this, it's that, it's this person. It's never them. All right. They don't want to have to face themselves in the mirror because, again, a liar and a manipulator is trying to hide from reality, trying to hide from any consequences, trying to hide from any work that they're going to have to do to make anything better. So when you notice that this man never takes accountability, this is a huge red flag. And again, is it possible for a guy who's always saying it's this one's fault, that one? You know what? I want to say it's possible that he's not going to be a liar, but it's just not likely because at some point they're going to have to twist the story to still make them be the victim. They're going to have to give false details so that they can deflect from this issue. That type of behavior leads to, even if their initial intention wasn't to lie, it is hard because if you're going to be honest, then you can find fault in what you did. If you're going to be honest, you can see where you can improve. But if you don't want to face those facts, you're going to have to bring lies. You're going to have to twist the story. That's just the way it goes. So when you see that he never takes personal accountability, that is the behavior of a man who lies, and it needs to be addressed. So now that brings me to number 4 on this list. He's quick to turn the tables on you. So like I said, he doesn't take personal accountability. It's always about someone else. So then what happens is when you try to address him, he flips it on you. So this reminds me of a story real quick. I got to talk about this. Where I remember there was a guy I knew. All right, this was many years ago, so don't judge me. But anyways, the guy had a girlfriend, and I didn't know what he was doing. All right, but it turned out she found out he was running these streets, cheating, acting a fool. She calls him up. All right, he's at my house. He's talking to her on the phone, and she's going in on him about the whole situation. But then next thing you know, he kind of walks away. I'm doing my own thing. But next thing you know, I hear him going off on her. All right. So now this whole conversation has switched to him being angry with her, him talking to her all kinds of ways. And by the end of the conversation, she's apologizing to him. But here's the kicker. When they hung up the phone, the first thing that man did was look at me and laugh. He knew exactly what he was doing. Liars and manipulators are fully aware. And again, that whole turn the tables on you, that is a huge behavior of a man who is a liar and a manipulator. He knows how to somehow make it your fault. How now, well, you did this wrong. Now it's on you so that he can take the spotlight off of him. It is classic deflection. And the sad thing is it works if you are not as aware as a woman. So let me just give you this quick tip. If you ever find yourself in a situation where someone's trying to turn the tables on you, don't fight them on what they're trying to now put on you. Stick to the script of what you called them about. And if they won't, do not continue the conversation. See, the mistake that people make in those situations is that now you actually get caught up in trying to defend yourself. And if the liar is good, they know how to keep their foot on your neck so that you keep having to fight back, and you lose all track of what the whole conversation was really about. And the fact that they were the one that were in the wrong and you were addressing them first. So once you catch that they're trying to put you in a position of defending yourself when you know you genuinely were not in the wrong. It's different if you actually were in the wrong. That's a whole other conversation. But if you know you were genuinely not in the wrong and that you were addressing this properly, all right, and you now see they're trying to flip it, you got to stop the conversation. Do not allow them to have that, and let it be known if they're unwilling to address the issue that you are trying to address, that is your exit out of the relationship. Because if they want to allow you to address this issue with them, how can you ever build something healthy with them? How can you ever be happy here? How can you ever have peace? Because you're never going to get your feelings heard. You're never going to get the issues addressed. You're never going to get anything resolved. And so it's a clear sign you're dealing with a liar, and a clear sign you're with the wrong man and in the wrong relationship. So end it all together. Now, this all brings me to number 5 on this list. And we kind of already touched on it, but let's talk about it again. He's extremely defensive. So again, when we talk about turning the tables, we talk about not taking accountability, this all plays into him always being defensive. He does not take any level of criticism well. Even when you try to be nice and sweet, he takes it the wrong way. He fights back, pushes back. Now listen, don't get me wrong. If you speak to someone in an attacking manner, it is human nature to be defensive in that way. So you have to be mindful of how you're speaking to someone, how you're expressing yourself to that man. And that goes for anyone. If I was speaking to men, I would tell them the same thing. Anytime someone feels attacked, genuinely, they're going to become defensive. However, if you express yourself in a calm and loving manner and they're still getting defensive, a liar uses that defensiveness as a defense mechanism. They use that to then deflect, to then turn the tables, to now introduce anger into the situation, to again make you lose track of what this whole conversation was really about. It's easy to manipulate people with anger, with all this negative energy to get you to back down and stop coming at him with what you're trying to address. So you got to notice when he's always defensive and unwilling to just hear you out, unwilling to take constructive criticism, unwilling to welcome you expressing your feelings in a calm and loving manner, and that's always important, calm and loving manner, then that again is a behavior of a man who lies. All right. Now, again, one more time, get your copy of He's Lying Sis, he'slyingsis.com, or click the links in the description. But let me give you that last one I said I want to mention to you. And this isn't about the man's behavior. This is just a message I need you to hear. Trust your intuition. At the end of the day, I can lay out for you all these behaviors. I can lay out for you even some more behaviors. And again, I remind you, I want you to address it, not just cut them off the first sight of anything wrong. However, your intuition knows best. The reality is that so many women have found themselves in the wrong relationship because they ignored their intuition. So many women have found themselves wasting their time with a man that they knew from conversation number 1, that he wasn't it because you ignored your intuition. Women are in marriages feeling stuck because they ignore their intuition. Women have baby fathers who they hate. I hate to use that word, but it is what it is, because they ignore their intuition. There are so many ramifications, so many negative consequences of simply ignoring what you sense from within. Now, let me make something really clear. The difference between intuition and fear. Fear is your logic in your mind breaking things down, all right? And you're analyzing and you're coming to your conclusions. Intuition needs no logic, needs no analyzation. It just feels, it just knows, it just senses. So sometimes the man may have not done anything wrong, but if in your spirit you just know you don't belong there, listen, all right? And sometimes, this may sound crazy, sometimes he may make a mistake. He may do something wrong, but your intuition is telling you, don't walk away from this man yet. And I'm going to tell you to listen to that. As crazy as that may sound, because it may be your spirit telling you this is a fixable issue. But you don't want to let your fear dictate your actions. You don't want to let your fear dictate how you approach this situation and which way you go with this. You want to make sure you tap into your intuition, and to go even deeper than that, which I believe is all connected, talk to God. Pray about it. Ask God, should you be dealing with this man? Ask God if there's any more digging that needs to be done. Ask God how to handle the situation. If you believe in God and you include God in other aspects of your life, then don't leave him out of your relationships. Don't leave him out of your dating life. If anything, you need him even more than ever in those aspects of your life. So please, talk to God, pray, listen to your intuition, and let that guide you more than anything. You know, one of the things I'm going to use the word hate to see are women in relationships with men who clearly don't respect them, who clearly don't love them. And these women are accepting treatment that is much less than they deserve, okay? And I think that sometimes when I make these videos, you'll have people comment and be like, oh, that's common sense, or oh, like, you don't need to tell a woman that, she already knows. And it's like, okay, maybe you do, and bravo if you do, but unfortunately, a lot of women get caught up in unfortunate, unhealthy, toxic situations. And the goal isn't to make someone feel bad, beat themselves up, shame anyone, judge anyone. It's to help women navigate themselves out of it. It's to empower, it's to enlighten, it's to encourage, right? Because I know how damaging those types of relationships can be, and how much those situations can impact a woman's ability to live a higher quality of life, as well as to be ready to receive the man who is for her, okay? So when I make a video like this, breaking down signs that the man doesn't respect you, I want you to understand it's not about bashing men in general, because listen, there are bad men out there. There are great men out there. There are some men who are horrible in one relationship, evolve, and become better in the future, but they still may not be for you, right? And I just want you to be aware, because for some of you, you may need a wake-up call right now, right? You may need that nudge to help you. For others, you may not be dealing with this, but God forbid, you may find yourself dealing with this. Because again, no matter how much we say, I would never be in a situation like that. Listen, it happens to the best of us. It happens to the best of us. But that's what I'm here for, to help minimize the chances of that. And if you're already there, to help you get through that and past that and onto a better place. So I want to lay down for you, or lay out for you, signs that the man you're dealing with does not respect you. And the first one I'm going to have to get to, and I was hesitant to put this on the list because I talk about this a lot, but we got to talk about it again. One of the first signs is if he asks you for large sums of money. So here's the reason why I felt compelled to start off with this. I recently came across a situation. I'm not going to give the story details, because if I do, they're way too specific and it involves some deep stuff. So let's just say I came across some situation recently where this type of situation happened. And the reality is that though I came across it again recently, I've come across this many times in my years of doing coaching and speaking on relationships. And I've been in this business for over 15 years. And I've seen women get attached, put themselves in very unfortunate situations by giving money to a man who really was just trying to use them. Now, I want to be clear. I am not saying that the minute a man asks a woman for some money, it's automatic he don't respect you or he's using you. That's why I tried to qualify this by saying large sums. Now, in fairness, large sums can be different to different people, right? In my head, we're just gonna go with anything over $100. Now, to some people, $100 ain't nothing. But let me explain. First, let me say, it's one thing if we're talking about a man that you are married to. That's a completely different story. That does not count. If we're talking about a man that you've been in a long-term relationship with, that does not count. If we're talking about a man who has consistently provided for you financially, we're not going to count that today, all right? Though there may be some exceptions to that rule, we're just going to leave that off. We're talking about situations where the man has not done for a woman financially, okay? We're talking about situations where the man's not even committed to the woman. They're not even in an official relationship, right? In the early stages of dating, things of that nature, okay? And the reason why asking for large sums of money is in many cases, a sign of lack of respect is because, one, you have to understand and consider the fact that when a man is really into a woman and he's intentionally dating her, right? He sees her as potential future. He is going to be very mindful of how he presents himself, and he does not want to make her feel like he is weak in certain areas, all right? And let's face it, one of the areas that men do not want to show weakness into a woman that they're really into is financially, all right? Sometimes it gets to an unhealthy place. Sometimes you have men who genuinely could have asked their partner for help and she would have helped them and he had genuine intent to pay her back, right? But the fact is, the mindset of most men who are serious about a woman is, I don't want to bring that burden to her, and I'm not going to ask her for money, okay? Now, I just have to throw this in. You have some men who, okay, his willingness to go to his woman and ask her for money is because he can't go to anyone else. But if this man has friends, family, whoever, and he can't ask anyone else, my first thought is, how many times have you already asked them in the past and you didn't own up to what you asked for? Because the idea that you wouldn't go to a friend or family before going to your woman, right? A lot of times that means he ain't good for it. And he's already exhausted his other options. All right. So now he has to go to the woman that he's with. But again, going back to the whole, a man doesn't want to come across looking weak in this area. He's more trying to impress and show that I got it, I can handle it. His willingness to ask, and to ask again, no commitment, early stages of dating, doesn't pour back into you, is usually because he sees you as someone he can use in that way. All right. And there are unfortunately men that exist who target women, who target specific types of women because they view them as an easier target to use for resources. Whether that be a place to stay, whether that be money, whether that be driving your car. I know that hurts some of y'all because some of y'all are going through it. And again, I'm not trying to judge and I don't want you to beat yourself up and feel bad, but we got to be real about this, okay? And again, it stems from like, there tends to be a lack of respect because what you'll typically find, and this is very important, for those of you who may have already or are already in that situation, one of the key ways you're going to know if it's really about lack of respect, or maybe this is just an outlier and he fell on hard times and he needed some help and it's not going to be a problem, is how does he treat you otherwise? Because if we're talking about a man who, even if he's not pouring into you financially because he just don't got it like that, but he treats you well, he shows you love, he shows you respect, he's there for you in other ways, then I can at least give him the benefit of the doubt that, okay, maybe this is a genuine guy who's just struggling right now, and you really are the only person he can count on to go to for this, right? I get it. But what I see a lot in these situations is a man who's not treating the woman right, who's not pouring into her in other ways, who's neglecting her in many ways, yet he got his hand out asking for money. It's a problem. It's a problem. And I think it's important that as a woman, you understand, even if you view yourself as this loving, generous woman, which is beautiful, I never want you to stop being loving and generous. I just want you to start recognizing who to give that to and who you should not be entertaining in that way, okay? However, if you feel so compelled to still give a man a large sum of money or to make a large financial investment of any kind, co-signing something, helping him get an apartment, putting your name on the lease, whatever, right? Don't do what you cannot walk away from if this man turns the tables on you, all right? You got to be prepared to only give up what you can. If it turns out he's the user, manipulator, doesn't respect you, you got to be able to say, let's just say you gave him $500 and you can deal with not having that $500 back, then that's your limit. But you don't give, let's just say, $2,000 knowing you need that money or knowing that you cannot walk away in peace without that money, and now you find yourself stuck or feeling stuck because you're not truly stuck. You can still make a choice to walk away, but you feel stuck because you've made this too large of an investment in this man. All right? So be very honest with yourself. Don't put yourself in compromising situations, okay? And if you're already there, because again, we're going to keep it real. There's some women who are dealing with this right now. I want you to start planning how you can remove yourself from this situation. I want you to sit down and not, because what happens is sometimes in hoping that he will justify you making that investment, you giving him that money, whatever the case may be, you end up holding on longer, just believing, okay, he's going to do it. He's not going to do me like this. He's not going to do me like this. And then lo and behold, he ultimately does you like that, right? So you've got to be able to set a deadline, right? And you've got to be able to plan an exit, have an exit strategy of how I can mitigate this loss, how I can handle this, how I can detach rather than just holding on to hope. And if we are going to give time, we need to have a structure of agreement. This is how it needs to be paid back. It has to be, because that way, because here's a big thing. If you can at least eat, and we're going to move on to the next point. I don't want to dwell on this too much, but there's so much I can say about this. But let's use the example, you gave this man $2,000, right? You're waiting for him to pay you back. He says, but I ain't got no money right now. All right, cool. Let's come up with a payment plan. Even if that payment plan, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I don't literally mean this. This is just an example. Even if that payment plan is $10 a week. I just feel like some of y'all laughed at me just now. Even if it's $10 a week, I'd rather something that you can concretely hold him to, that he can show you he's paying into to show that you guys will get to that point of it being paid back, than to just sit there with just give me 4 months. Because then you wait 4 months, and now 4 months come, and I need 3 more months. And 3 more months come, I need 5 more months. And it's this never-ending excuse and ongoing cycle. But ultimately, to wrap this point up, I'm just going to say, again, don't give more than you can handle losing. And make sure before you give to a man in that way, if you are prepared to take that step, ask yourself, does he show up the way that I need him to otherwise? Is he pouring into me, or am I just doing for him? All right, so there was a lot I had to say there, but let's keep it going. And so another sign a man does not respect you is that he does not respect your boundaries, okay? So there's a quote I use a lot. It says, a lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect. Now, what's tricky about that quote is, if you never establish the boundaries, then I think it's unfair to just assume certain things are automatic disrespect. I understand there's going to be some things that most people would agree is just flat out disrespect, but understand that people perceive or have a different idea of how the relationship should go, how we interact with others, all these different things, or how we even speak to each other. Okay, you may have some people who genuinely believe that speaking all aggressively with their partner is just what couples do. If they grew up around that and the couples that they saw engaged in that stayed together for years, they may not register that as a problem. But for you, who comes from a very different environment, that aggressive talk is like, that right there is disrespect. But there has to be a discussion about that. So this is why it's important. If we're going to evaluate his willingness to respect your boundaries, we have to lay him out. And that's why it's so important as early as possible to start establishing certain boundaries, to start talking about how we feel we're supposed to show up in our relationships. Now, one of the things that I think is a great thing to do is when you guys are talking and getting to know each other, come up with hypothetical situations and discuss how would you handle that, or would this be a problem? So let me give you an example. I remember one time I was speaking to a woman many years ago, and I said, okay, let's just say, because we both can enjoy going out sometimes, and I got friends who love going out. So I said, okay, let's just say one day I'm at a club, and you're at a different club, right? And somebody wants to come dance with you, and vice versa. Is dancing with them in the relationship disrespectful to you? Now, again, some of y'all be like, that's a stupid question. Of course it's disrespectful. Remember, people have different belief systems. There's some people who don't think it's a big deal for their partner to go out dancing and they're dancing with somebody else. Other people think, hell no, ain't no way. You ain't going to be my partner by the time you get home. If that's what you think, you can go out there and do. But this is why we have discussions. So we ask different scenarios. We talk about all these different possibilities, or we just say flat out, hey, if you're with me, this is what is cool, this is what's not cool. Another perfect example, I was coaching a guy recently, and long story short, like, perfect example, there are some guys out there who, and you may see this a lot on the internet, where they believe like a woman going on a girl's trip is absolutely hell no. Unacceptable. That's just, she's looking for trouble. She's going to get herself into some stuff. You don't let your woman do that. And if she wants to do that, you don't make her your woman, you let her go, right? Now listen, there are men who believe that, but there are men, and I'm just going to admit it, I'm one of them, who doesn't care? who, if anything, go on your girl's trip. I ain't trying to police nobody. If you want to go with your girl, I've seen women be on a girl's trip, have fun, and not get into trouble. I think it's possible, right? So to me, I'm not going to sit here and stress it, but at the same time, I'm not going to demonize the man who doesn't like it either. Instead, what I tell that man is, all right, if that's your thing, you lay out for that woman you're trying to get with that this is how you roll, that this is what's expected. And if she's not with that, if that's not her thing, don't fight, don't argue, don't speak down on her. Just, okay, you guys aren't on the same page. Not a good fit for a relationship. Plain and simple. And you move on, because guess what? There will be a woman out there who thinks, oh, I completely agree. Girls' trips are ridiculous. I don't need to be out with my girls if I got a man. Then they're a match made in heaven. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can just keep it that simple. So with all that said, I really just feel like I know you have to establish boundaries early. And then you'll get to see, does this man actually respect it? Because if he respects you, he will do what he can to respect his boundaries. Granted, there are going to be exceptions to the rules sometimes where certain situations, I mentioned in the previous video, where a situation can get out of hand and he may feel like out of good intention, he needs to cross a certain line, but we're not going to get on into that today. For the most part, and it's one thing for somebody to cross it for one situation and they explain to you this is why and it was with good intent versus He just doesn't respect what you say and he does what he wants. He doesn't care how you feel. That's a sign of disrespect. All right. So another sign that a man does not respect you is that he constantly takes from you but does not give. Okay? So this is kind of piggybacking off the guy who asked for large sums of money, where you have a lot of situations out there where a man is looking for a woman to leech off of, okay? And you have some men who, I'm gonna be very careful with how I phrase this, you got some men who have been coddled by their mothers growing up and never learned how to do for themselves or how to pour into someone else. And they become adult men who now are basically looking for a woman to be their new mother that they have sex with, okay? And so they're just looking for someone that's gonna do for them, do for them, do for them, but they don't honor the responsibility of having to do for her. Now, for the man who is looking for that kind of dynamic, and more specifically for the man who's just looking to take from a woman, again, they can be very specific about how they target certain women to be able to do that with. And so it's kind of hitting my spirit, so I want to mention this. One of the greatest deterrents of a manipulator or user is self-confidence, all right? Manipulators, users, gaslighters, they're looking for any sign of lack of self-esteem. They're looking for signs of self-doubt. They're looking for signs of desperation, all right? Because they know those are the doorways to where they can really have leverage over this woman and use her and get what they want from her. But when you present yourself as a confident woman, not arrogant, okay? Not being, all think you better than everybody type of stuff, okay? But just confident, sure, you know yourself, and you can still present yourself in a positive, loving way, right? That's gonna scare away, or at least make it harder for that user type of guy to come your way. If anything, he'll, like, this hit my spirit again, so I also have to say this. This is why you'll have some men who, if I say how a woman who exudes a lot of masculine energy and does everything for herself, that can draw a lot of leeches, because that man views it as, I won't have to step up. She already has what she needs. If anything, she can give me things. She can stabilize my life. I don't gotta do for her, right? Whereas if they see another woman who, I'm gonna use the phrase, she is giving off a more energy of receiving. She wants a man who can provide and do for her, and she gives off that energy. He's like, that's too much. I ain't got nothing to give her. I need someone who can give to me. So let me go over here to this other woman. And that's why when you speak to, there's a lot of successful women who, when they say they're struggling to find a man, what they're really saying is they're struggling to find the type of man that they like and who can pour back into them. Because the line of leeches is wrapped around the corner for some of these women, all right? Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. You're experiencing this as we speak. You're not having a problem finding a bunch of men who don't have their stuff together, but the man who actually can pour back into you, that becomes a problem. And some of that stems from the energy that you're giving off, but we won't get too deep into that. What I will simply say to get through this point is, again, if the man who's serious about you, the man who respects you, the man who cares about you, wants to pour into you, I always make the argument, even if a man is not fully financially stable or successful, he still wants to find ways to be useful to a woman he cares about, to be useful to a woman that he truly respects. Plain and simple. If he's not looking for any ways to be useful, any ways to pour back into you, but he got tons of requests, he constantly taking, and sometimes, man, I'm having a lot of hit in my spirit moments in this one. Sometimes, what some of y'all are setting yourselves up because essentially you're not even requiring him to make sure you're good. You're not even requiring him. Basically, you're showing up ready to do all these things. You're constantly offering. You're constantly jumping in. And he's just like, okay, I might as well just sit back and enjoy, right? But I still think that, so some men, even if it wasn't an issue of lack of respect, they may have interest in you, and now they see it too advantageous to not want to deal with you because you're doing everything for them. Okay? But that's why I think one of the important ways to really see what he's about is to make a request. Like, put it out there that you need his help with something. Again, it doesn't have to be money. Yo, can you help take my car to the mechanic? Can you help do this? Little simple things. And if he can't even help with all these other things, what is he? I hate to say it like that. What is he there for? What is he there for? He's got to be able to provide some kind of value to your life, real value, and not just take. All right, now before we get to this next one, I want you to get your copy of my best-selling book, The Man God Has for You. It has thousands of reviews. Tons of women have loved it. You may already have it, but you can still go to this site because there's going to be other options for you to look at. Either way, click the link below in the comments section or in the description, or go to themangodhasforyou.com and definitely check it out, okay? So now, another sign that a man does not respect you is when he is unwilling to listen to you, okay? Now, let me be very specific and clear when I say he's unwilling to listen. We're not talking about he's supposed to just do as you say. Just as a man's not supposed to just be your dictator, right? You're not his either. You're not supposed to just try to run your man, right? When I say listen to you, I mean hear you out. Consider your feelings. Consider your input on certain things, especially when, or more specifically, when you have expressed you want to be a part of that, okay? Because again, I have come across some men who they have generally been told, like, I forgot the saying, like, you don't tell your left hand what your right hand is doing, something of that nature. And I've heard that so many times by guys. And they really believe, like, no, you don't bring certain things to your woman. You handle it on your own. And I try to explain to these men, like, listen, there are women who they will feel devalued and they will feel more detached from you if you're constantly doing things and not sharing with them, not talking to them, not even considering how they would feel about it. And so if you love this woman, you want to establish a healthy relationship with her, you got to be willing to talk to her about certain things. Now, if that woman says to that man, listen, I don't want to deal with some of these things, so if you can handle it, go handle it. I don't need to hear about that. All right, cool. That's different, right? But I've seen a lot of division happen in relationships and marriages because of this ideology of, well, I shouldn't have to include her in certain things or talk to her about certain things. It's like, no, you should. And to be honest with you, I feel the same way in reverse. Like, I think when you have women who just do what they want and they don't even talk to their man or consider what he thinks or how he feels, you're very likely in many situations to create problems and resentment. And he'll feel like you don't respect him, okay? So it's important that we establish those things early. And that's what I mean by, listen, hear you out, okay? Now, I also feel the need to mention this because I've seen situations where a man will get the opinion of his partner. He will go to his woman, see what she has to say, but then ultimately he ends up making the decision that is not what the opinion that she gave. And the woman gets pissed off. She's like, you don't listen to me. And it's like, yo, he asked for your opinion. It didn't mean he's going to do what you suggested. He's considering your feelings. That's the important part, that he actually sits, talks with you, considers it, but it won't always lead to what you felt he should have done. So you gotta be mindful of not falling into that trap, because then that can create a disconnect where he feels like, well, you know what? I'm not even going to talk to her because if I talk to her and I don't do what she suggested, now it's still a problem. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, no, let's talk, let's consider it. The respect is him having that discussion with you when that's what you want in your relationship. All right, so this one, I'm going to say it's tricky. Y'all will think that's ridiculous for me to say. And I'm going to try not to make this too long, but let's just get to it. Another sign that a man does not respect you is he is unwilling to establish boundaries with other women. Okay. Now, here, let's just get to why that's tricky. Okay. I have seen some situations where, let's just say, for example, let's start with one of the biggest ones that becomes a problem: a man's relationship with his mother. Okay. Now, I love my mother to death, right? But I believe you have to understand the lane that your mother gets to be in versus your woman, and specifically even more so your wife, right? And I believe in the order of, God, wife, kids, work, okay? Your parents, you can love them, you can honor them, but your wife is priority. And so there are some men out there who have not learned how to manage and handle their relationship with their mother in regards to how it impacts their relationship with their woman. Now, the reason why I call this tricky is because I don't want to automatically always make it about disrespect, right? Some men just have not learned how to stand up to their mother. Some men really just have this, what I feel is a misguided belief that, oh, your mother's always your mother, so your mother should always come first, even over your wife, right? I do not believe that's the way things are supposed to go. But again, his belief is not out of a lack of respect, but just a very different perspective on things. So you have some situations where, and listen, I'm not saying that a woman should accept that. I just want to be careful and not label everything that falls under a man not establishing boundaries with a woman, especially when it comes to his mother, as automatic he doesn't respect you. However, there are many situations where, yes, he views the woman as lower and will not stand in the gap and handle his mother or check his mother because he does not have enough respect for the woman that he's with. All right. And to him, women are interchangeable and the mother is forever. And so to him, and when you think like that, when you think women are so interchangeable and you can just, if she can just go, if that's the case, then there's a very good chance you're not going to choose someone that you're genuinely deeply into and love. You're going to choose someone that you feel it makes sense with, it's advantageous for you, whatever the case may be, but she doesn't hold enough of a high place in your heart to help you see things differently, right? But then we move past just it being about mothers, and let's talk about boundaries with other women in general. Female friends and acquaintances and work people and all these different things. Now, I'll say this. Again, in today's world that we live in, different people do have different perceptions on what they feel should be acceptable and not. Some people feel like you should be allowed to have all the friends that you want and it shouldn't be a problem. Your partner should be secure enough. There are others who are like, hell no, all that extra opposite friend stuff is like, no, that's a problem, right? But then I think where it's universal, I don't think there's any exception that I can think of right now, is when a man allows other women to disrespect his woman, he don't respect his woman. That's a problem. If you're letting another woman wreak havoc in your relationship, that's a problem. If you're letting another woman, talk badly about your girl, all these different things, like, this is a problem. Outside of because again, for someone in my position, I've seen so much. And so have I ever seen a man who loves his woman, but let's just say today he's pissed the hell off and he's been talking bad about her. And so now this woman, let's just say a friend, whoever, is talking bad too because she's being fed a negative perception. And he's not going to be like, yeah, no, you can't talk to her about her like that, because he's talking about you like that too. Okay. But that was in the moment, and okay, he got himself together. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying it happens, right? But we're talking about just blatant coming in, disrespecting, letting that woman not, like, if there's boundaries that you're establishing with that man, and he's supposed to let that woman know, and then she crosses that boundary and he's not willing to check her, that's a problem. That's the sign of a lack of respect. Or, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it, sometimes it's because he got more feelings for this friend than he got for his woman. That's a whole nother video. That's a whole different discussion. I'm just putting it out there. But ultimately, again, there's a lot more I can say about this, but bottom line is an unwillingness to establish bonds with other women, especially when you have had the discussion with him, when you have let him know what you are not okay with and what you are uncomfortable with, and he is unwilling to make any corrections, that is typically a sign of a lack of respect. So there's this great quote: it only takes one lie to ruin a relationship. Because the reality is that once you plant that seed of doubt, once you plant that seed of deceit, you give a person reasons to now question everything that you got to say. And that one lie can start to create all kinds of insecurities and create a very negative, unhealthy environment in a relationship. And it's just downright a problem that so many people have faced and experienced in their own relationships or situationships or whatever some people are getting involved in. So it begs the question, why do men keep lying to women? Like, why are there so many men who are constantly telling lies, especially when we consider so many are not even good at lying and eventually they're going to get caught anyway? So it's almost like, what's really the purpose here? And I get asked this question a lot by women, trying to understand the motivation, what is driving the man's intent to take this route rather than just be honest about it. Now, I'm gonna break this whole thing down, and I need you to listen to the end, because there's a very important message I have for you at the end about this whole lying situation, all right? That you really have to understand, and it's gonna bring you a lot of peace and clarity. But let's start breaking down some of these reasons why men will lie to women. And one of those reasons is because they're immature and have unresolved issues. Now, this is not to simply just attack men or bash them, but it's the reality is that I'm gonna say this. I have a good friend of mine, and we believe one of the pillars of being a man, or even pillars of walking your masculinity, is being honest. Like, you have to accept that you're not gonna always get what you want. You gotta accept that it's not gonna always create the greatest scenario, but you at least stand in your truth, right? And that takes maturity to understand it, and a maturity that a lot of men have yet to develop. But before I go deeper into the maturity issue, I want to go into the deeper unresolved issues issue, because I had a man recently reach out to me who said, I need help. I love my woman. You know, she's great. I don't want to lose her, but I keep lying to her. And I don't understand why. It's not about anything important. I'm just lying about nonsense, really. And I can't seem to stop myself from doing it. Can you help me? So this is not to create sympathy, so to speak, for a liar, but it is to speak to the reality that there are men with deeper unresolved issues that cause them to lie. And men like this, it's not even just lying to women. I know of men who lie to their homeboys all the time about the stupidest stuff. Like, it's so unnecessary for them to lie, and they still do it. Now, from what I have examined, right, the root of it seems to be, one, some men the insecurity that they have, and they're seeking a level of attention, validation. They want people to look at them a certain way. They tend to embellish everything. So they tell lies because they want to shine a good spotlight on themselves. They tell lies because they want to hype up a situation because it's going to make them look good. They're going to lie about what happened in a story because, again, they want to come out looking like the man, or whatever the case may be. This desire to be revered and looked at a certain kind of way pushes them to lie, because the truth won't get them any points. All right? Again, not saying this is okay, just explaining it to you. Another reason why some lie is because they're just so insecure about themselves that they just feel like the truth will never be good enough. Okay? Like, somehow it kind of goes back to the whole wanting to be viewed a certain kind of way. They have to either add extra to a story, or they have to make certain things up because they want to come out looking a certain way, and they feel like the real them isn't good enough for whatever they're trying to accomplish or however they're trying to be seen in people's eyes. Okay? Then you have deeper issues where some people just have grown up in very dysfunctional households, and lying is almost a part of their life, and they just habitually lie. And those individuals need therapy. They need help. It's not anything you can fix in them, okay? They have to be willing to go address the deeper issues themselves and learn how to stand in their truth. So going back to the fact that in also their immaturity of it, they have not learned how to accept the realities of what happens when you lie. And one of those realities is that when you lie, you are likely to create more lies trying to uphold the first lie. Okay? So a lot of men do not understand it. And again, we can say people, right? But we're focusing on men, but I just want to acknowledge, I think we all know men and women have told lies and tell lies, right? But a lot of people, when they're younger and immature, don't consider the fact of what rabbit hole you're sending yourself down by telling this initial lie, and how exhausting it can be to have to uphold that lie with more lies and trying to cover your tracks and all this extra stuff that goes into it. And so I think for a lot of people, once you get older, you realize it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Once you mature, and when I say get older, once you mature, because that's the key. Some people gotten older and still haven't gotten mature, okay? And some people are young and have matured very quickly. Once you mature, once you gain wisdom and knowledge and understanding of things, you realize it's just not worth it. All right? All that will come with it. And then you could do all that work, right? Try to cover all your tracks, and you still get caught and found out. So now you have to deal with the exhausting process of keeping it going. Then you still have to deal with the consequences of them finding out you lied, on top of the fact that now if it happens within a romantic relationship, you have undermined the trust in that relationship. So these are things that a lot of men have not considered, and instead are reacting in the moment, okay? And that's another sign of immaturity, is not thinking ahead, not understanding the bigger picture, but instead just reacting in the moment to whatever it is they're fearful of, or whatever they're trying to portray about themselves, whatever the case may be. But before I go to the next point, I just want to reinforce, or I want to repeat to you, the men that have the deeper issues as to why they lie and the immaturity of why they lie, trust and believe they're lying to everyone, men and women. I see it all the time. So it speaks to their lack of development as an individual, and hopefully in time they're gonna grow up and figure it out. All right, so now another reason why men lie to women is because he feels that if he tells you the truth, he won't get what he actually wants, okay? So let's start with one of the most common things that men feel like they won't get if they're honest about it, and that's sex. Let's just, we're gonna keep it real here, all right? And I always laugh at the whole, you hear a lot of women say it. You might be one of those women that'll say, oh, if a man would just tell us that's what he wants, then maybe he'll just get it, right? Stop the nonsense, right? Like, listen, it is best for a man to be honest. And I encourage men to just be straightforward. Don't play games, because again, you want to give people an opportunity to make the decision for themselves and know what they're getting themselves into. To me, we got to eliminate all the deceit and the games and all this type of stuff. So at least if people want to engage in different situations and casual relationships, at least they're doing so understanding what it is, rather than being led on that it's something else, okay? But if men really thought, or if men saw that being straightforward about wanting to sleep with you actually would work, they would do it. right? They would have no problem doing it. They don't do it because it typically is not going to work. Now, here's an interesting thing that I've observed. You as a woman can correct me if I'm wrong, or you may have a different opinion. But I have spoken to some women who have acknowledged that there are some situations where the woman can come into the situation actually only wanting to sleep with the man as well, right? That's her only desire. She doesn't view him as anything more. She just wants to have fun with him. However, the minute he says to her directly, I just want to sleep with you and that's it, it's dead. She don't want to do it no more. Like she had no problem when it was her who essentially viewed him as just a play toy, right? But he still desired her. Versus to be made felt like that's all she is desired from him for. And now it's like she feels like I'm cheapening myself or devaluing myself by allowing him to move forward. Now, is that every woman's reaction? No, but that's what some have acknowledged. So I say all that to say a lot of men have experienced that being straightforward doesn't get that result. So what that lends to is now more men being vague about it, which is why, as a woman, though men need to be honest, you're never guaranteed if you're going to end up dealing with an honest man or a man who's going to lie. So you have to equip yourself with how you can see through the nonsense and evaluate what this man is really about. And that's why it's important to ask questions. That's why it's important to recognize the signs of a man who is trying to be serious versus the signs of a man who just wants to sleep with you, because he's not going to always give you that. Some men will. Some men, if you just ask them, they'll tell you, right? They may not come out and say it directly, but if you flat out ask, they're more likely to just answer the question honestly. But if you don't, they'll go along being vague because that has worked more efficiently for a lot of men. And so whether it's just have sex, whether it's for some men out there, unfortunately, they're out here using women for a place to stay, for a car to drive, for help with the bills, you name it. He's not going to be honest about that because he knows that will undermine his ability to receive it. And let's face it, that's probably one of the biggest driving forces for anyone to tell a lie, is that they're afraid they're not going to get what they wanted if they're honest about it. And so again, it's just something to understand. And you have to realize that you can never rely on someone to be good to you in the way that says they will present honesty, versus you have to say, I have to be ready to seek out that honesty, so to speak, or seek out that clarity, I think is a better way to put it, in order to make sure you don't fall into any unwanted situations with a man who's on a different page than you. All right, so let's keep this thing going. And another reason why men lie to women is that he's not comfortable opening up to you, okay? So let's understand that not every lie is about like some big overall situation that's like cheating or inappropriate behavior, things of that nature. Sometimes the lies are a lot small. I use the word smaller in the sense of the magnitude of it, but a lie is a lie, you know what I'm saying? And they can still wreak havoc even with the small lies. But let's face it, sometimes it could be as simple as you asking him, where he was at, and let's just say he wasn't in the mood to talk to you. He was shutting down, or maybe he felt like he couldn't. He went to go talk to his mother or something. He didn't want to make you feel some kind of way about it, so he lied and said, oh, no, I was out playing ball. But in reality, he was out speaking to his mom about a situation that you're wondering why he doesn't speak to me about it, right? And so there's a lot of men who, in general, on average, a lot of men struggle with opening up. I think most of us, or most of you, can acknowledge that you've seen that, you observed that. But I do think that on top of men's own issue that they have to resolve of struggling to open up, there's also the other layer of it where a lot of women don't realize how they've reacted in moments that he was opening up. and then how that now affects his willingness to do so going forward. Now, I am not someone who believes, like, if you can't open up to your partner because of how they react and handle things, to me, the answer isn't shut down. The answer isn't stop being honest about certain things. The answer is address it. And if it can't be corrected, then maybe we don't belong in a relationship together. But the unfortunate reality is that a lot of men choose to just deal with it, but they deal with it in a very unhealthy way, such as shutting down, such as not being as forthcoming anymore. One of the reasons why that happens is because for some men, unfortunately, the perception is this is a woman thing, meaning all women are like this. Like, I'm sure you've heard on the internet before, some of you may have heard, where some have told men never open up to a woman or never be vulnerable with a woman. She's gonna throw it back in your face, right? And they view it as like, this is just what happens, so I'm not gonna leave this woman for this reason because some other woman's gonna do the same thing anyway. I'm just gonna deal with it, but again, I'm not gonna be as transparent with her as I would have been initially. So that's a wrong way of handling it, absolutely. But as a woman, you do have to be mindful of how you react, because sometimes you don't recognize that you allow your emotions to get the best of you in that moment, and how you may have reacted very negatively, or how you may have been very dismissive in that moment that he was opening up, or, and we're going to talk about a little bit more later, very judgmental. We'll get into that later. There's various things that happen in moments that men try to be more vulnerable, or the big one is, if whatever it is he needs to be honest about and vulnerable about is something that he feels will cause him to lose respect in your eyes, that leads to a lot of shutting down, being dishonest, all these things, because that's one of the biggest fears a man has with a woman. Especially if he cares about how you feel, like he's really genuine about being with you and he's into you. He doesn't want you to view him in a less respectful manner. You know what I'm saying? That's a knife to the heart for a lot of men, for the woman that you care about to not have that respect for you anymore. So that unfortunately creates these situations, or contributes, I want to say contributes to a lot of these situations. So I think the way that we navigate through this specific one is, one, I think it's important for everyone when we're dating or in a relationship, is to create the parameters of how we communicate, the parameters of how we open up about very serious issues and situations. Maybe even starting off with, hey, I want to talk to you about this, but I don't want you to look at me any differently. Now, does that always guarantee that you won't, depending on what he's about to reveal? Of course not, right? But it's kind of like the trigger word that says, hey, be mindful of how you react right now. Because even if he reveals something to you that you don't like or that you find unacceptable, whatever, unless you're prepared to leave that man right there, there's no point in reacting bad in that moment. Okay? So my thing is, if he says, for example, I don't have a good example right now, but if he reveals something, you don't like it, and this thing is not enough to where you're going to leave him. Let's just use the fact that, my ex reached out to me the other day and I was on the phone with her for like an hour and she had some questions, and you know damn you don't like that. You feel like that was disrespectful. Why would you allow this woman to sit there and have this conversation with you and not tell me about it in advance, right? That may or may not be your position, but let's just say that's your position. If you react bad in that moment, negative in that moment, you think he's going to be honest with you the next time something like that occurs? No, right? Because he doesn't want all the negativity that comes with it. But if you learn how to just stay calm, it doesn't mean you have to like it, doesn't mean you're accepting it, doesn't mean you're deeming it acceptable. It just means you're allowing yourself to process, hear it out, and calmly express your disappointment or your disagreement with it. That at least helps. It can still lead to that man not being as open next time, but that's different. If you are responding in a healthy manner, then it's completely on him if he tries to use that as a reason to not be honest moving forward. You know what I'm saying? But if you react in a very negative manner, you're adding fuel to the fire of him shutting down. And I think that's something that we have to discuss in advance as far as how we create that environment, that safe space, so that we can be open and vulnerable with each other as much as possible. All right, so let's keep this going. Another reason why men lie, and I mentioned it, so let's dive a little deeper into it. He fears your judgment. Okay? So I'll say this. I feel like this actually happens more with women, in the sense of women holding back certain truths and not always being as honest as could be because they're concerned about how the man will judge them and look at them going forward. But this does happen with the men as well. All right? And the fear of judgment has paralyzed a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And not only does it lead to like a flat out verbal lie for a lot of people, it can lead to a lot of people lying in how they present themselves and being their true self. Okay? Like I'm a firm believer that if you want to be able to, one, see if somebody truly fits into your life as quickly as possible, and you want to be able to see their true colors as fast as possible for the sake of recognizing that maybe they're just not it, right? You want to create an environment that of no judgment, okay? So it's basically, because understand there's a difference between judgment and recognizing we're not a good fit here, okay? So for example, let's just say you meet a man and he's into really kinky stuff, some super freaky things, okay? And some people will immediately come off very judgmental. Look, that you're oh, that's so nasty. What's wrong with you? Blah, 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 right? And to me, the problem with that is, especially again, if you're not prepared to just walk away, you've created an environment where now they're going to be afraid to show their true selves because of how you look down on them. Versus, I can sit here and say, oh, okay, you into those types of things? I get it. I mean, I don't know if I get it, but I understand that's your taste. And hey, that's you, do you. If that makes you happy, cool. But that won't work for me. Like, I don't think I can engage in those acts, right? So I'm not judging you. I'm not calling you out in any kind of way. I'm not looking down on you. But I can still say, hey, nah, that doesn't fit how I like to get down. I think we should go our separate ways. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that's better because, again, so many people, there are people who have gotten married, never showing their partner the true depth of who they are because of the fear of judgment. And I think this happens even more so in couples that are believers. All right, and what do you want to call it, religious or spiritual couples, this could be Muslim, Christian, whatever. If the other person, so let's just say the man or the woman gets with a partner who is very religious, right, very by the book, but they really like this person's a good person, they become very fearful of exposing those sides of them that maybe don't go well with the belief system, all right? Or what some in that belief system may look down upon. Now, again, people may differ. Like, for example, the one that's coming to mind right now, don't judge me, but like there are some believers who believe that oral sex is unnatural and should not be done, and you're nasty, and what's wrong with you? How could you put that in your mouth? I'm sorry, but they think it's disgusting, okay? And now, me personally, I think it's one of the greatest things ever created. But that's a whole different discussion. And listen, I get it. If you're someone who feels that is not appropriate, fine. I don't think we should judge someone because you may view them as too prude or too strict or whatever. And I don't think someone should be judged because they want to engage in those things. I just think we need to recognize, okay, right or wrong, fair or not fair, it's not a good fit. If this is an important thing to you, it's not a good fit. But the judgment or the fear of it sometimes just causes people to suppress that desire or that side of themselves because they want to be with you rather than you getting to see who they really are. And then it still ends up becoming a problem later. So I don't think anyone does themselves any favors by creating an environment that's judgmental. And, yeah, I just think it stifles a lot of people from either really coming together in a relationship or seeing a lot quickly that this isn't it here. But it is one of the reasons why some men will lie to a woman. All right, so we got a couple more to go. So we're going to run through these kind of quick. So another reason why men lie to women or a man will lie to a woman is bottom line, he's just not that serious about you. All right. And the reality is that when a man is not serious about a woman, a lot of men don't want, it's like they want to create this emotional distance, so to speak. So they're not going to be transparent. They're not going to be open. They're not going to be always honest about things. One, because they don't care to tell you the truth. They don't care to be real with you. They don't care to give you insight or allow you to get any closer to them emotionally because they're trying to keep this at a very surface level and enjoy you for whatever they're trying to enjoy you for or get out of you whatever they're trying to get out of you. So they have no intention of being real with you. All right. Now, again, one could say, well, being real isn't that hard, but understand that if he's not serious about you, but he's trying to still deal with you, then chances are he will also fall into one of the other categories of essentially he's going to lie because he knows the truth will stop him from getting what he wants. Okay? So whatever he's trying to use you for, he can't just say that's what it is. He can't just say, yeah, I'm just trying to have some fun here and that's it. Now, listen, some guys will keep it that real. Some guys will tell you straight up, I'm not looking for nothing serious. I just want to have fun. That's it. Go with the flow. I tell y'all that whole go with the flow thing, that's a dangerous phrase when people use that. You got to be careful. But, some will say that. And as a woman, you have to really be mindful of not, like I know we say actions speak louder than words. But when it comes to relationships and dating, the words and the actions have to be consistently aligning together, okay? If one is inconsistent with the other, there's a problem. And you almost have to, I want to say you have to default to what's being said, but even that can be dangerous because he could say, yeah, I really want to be with you, but his actions show you something different. You almost have to default to the lower of the two. Here's what I mean by that. Which, if one of them is showing a lack of true intention, a lack of seriousness, a lack of real desire to be with you, whether that's the actions or the words, you almost have to roll with that. But I can tell you that if a man is willing to come out of his mouth and say to you, I'm not looking for anything serious, I'm just trying to have fun, I don't want a relationship, he means that. He means that. I don't care if he says that and follows it up by buying you flowers the next day, treats you to beautiful things, takes you to a nice restaurant, take you on this amazing trip, throw flower petals on your bed. I don't care what romantic thing that man does. If he has allowed the word to come out of his mouth, I don't want a relationship, I just want to have fun, so on and so forth, he means that. Take him at that word right there. And you have to make your decision. If you know that's not what you're about, that's not what you're interested in, let him go. Do not let the other actions confuse you, okay? And just so you know, like there's a book I wrote called He's Lying Sis. You can check it out. Go to he'slyingsis.com, click the link in the description or the comment section. But there's a chapter called He Doesn't Want a Girlfriend, but He Acts Like Your Boyfriend. And it breaks down how there's men out there who can engage in these very boyfriend, even husband acts while still having no desire to ever be fully committed to you. So you want to be mindful of that. But this is another one of those contributing factors to why these men lie. He's just not serious about you. So again, we got a couple more. I said that last time, but for real, we got a couple more. So the next one, another reason why men will lie to women, and hear me out, because this might make some of y'all react a certain kind of way, but hear me out. Because the perception or the belief is you can't handle the truth. All right. So whether that specifically applies to you as a woman, the reality is that a lot of men have experienced being honest, being forthcoming, and only having the woman react very poorly. Or let's go even beyond that. And let's use the whole I don't want a relationship thing. I know of situations where men have given me the story, and I know there's always two sides, but I've even had this acknowledged by some women, where the man can meet the woman and say, I don't want a relationship, I have no plans on anything serious here, or even had some stories where men would tell a woman, I have no intentions of ever being monogamous. Okay? That's just who I am, that's how I get down. If you're cool with that, cool, but that's it. All right? Or even telling the woman, I have a woman that is my main girl, so you will only ever be second at best. Okay? The woman says, all right, cool, I hear you, I'm down with it. They continue. Throughout the process, it's being repeated. This is what it is. Boom, 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 all this stuff. And then in the end, let's just say things escalate between him and his main woman or whatever. And then the woman on the side is like, oh my gosh, how could you do this to me? You betrayed me. How are you now going to be more with her? And it's like, wait a minute. He was telling you the whole situation the entire time. And so you'll have these men feel like, what is the point of being honest if, one, you don't even accept what I'm saying to you? And again, I am in no way saying this is an excusable reason or an acceptable reason to lie. I'm just telling you what the process or the mindset is by some men, and what, you know, what's happening in some of these situations. It's almost like, yo, if I tell you the truth, you react poorly. I can tell you the truth and you'll act like I never told you this is what it was. I can tell you the truth and I still have to deal with nonsense. So it's almost like you're better off lying. And you've had some women, believe it or not, there are literal videos out there in the internet floating around of women who will say, I'd rather be lied to. Out of the woman's mouth, I'd rather be lied to. So, and I've even seen some videos, and again, I don't agree with this nonsense, but like, oh, if the man really cares about a woman, he'll lie to her. There's a lot of dysfunctional beliefs that are passed down. But ultimately, the point that I want to make here is that these various scenario situations lead to the perception of the woman can't handle the truth anyway. All right? She doesn't know how to just process it, take it for what it is, or not make it a bigger thing than what it needs to be. And so to avoid all this extra drama or unnecessary nonsense, in that man's eyes, he'd rather just tell a lie. And so this kind of goes back to why, and I mentioned this in the book as well, the more you can create an environment of honesty, the better for you, because again, it allows you to see through the person or see the person for who they are as fast as possible. But when we create or when we contribute to environments that can cause someone to feel like they just can't be real with you, we're only undermining our own ability to then get the information that we need, so to speak. That doesn't make it your fault. It's about how do you equip yourself to give yourself the best opportunity to get the clarity that you need in situations, all right? But the whole you can't handle the truth is definitely something that a lot of men believe, and there's a reason why they choose to lie to women. All right, now last but not least, and remember I have an important message I need you to hear. The last reason why men lie to women is because you accept it. Now, what I mean by that is this. If you are dealing with a man, he has told you lies, and you allow this man to continue to be with you despite these lies. And again, like I don't think giving somebody a chance after telling one lie is a bad thing. Because again, there's various reasons. It depends on the context of the situation. There's a lot we have to look at. But if the lying is a repeated pattern of behavior, and you continue to deal with him, despite no matter how much you kick, scream, have an attitude, withhold intimacy, whatever, as long as you continue to be with him, you are sending the signal that this is essentially acceptable. Again, your words can say something different, but if you're going to still be with him, you're basically telling him, all right, so to him, it's, yeah, I'll take my chances at telling the lie to avoid whatever unwanted outcome I'm trying to avoid, or to get what I want, or whatever the case may be, because at the end of the day, even if you catch me, you ain't going nowhere. And listen, if he's repeatedly lied, even if you caught him 7 times, that don't mean he didn't lie 10 other times that you just didn't catch him. So to him, it's like, all right, I'll play the odds at that point. Because again, you're not leaving him. It's when he sees, well, not even then, if he had, depending on what the issue is, but if there is no true consequence to his actions, why would there be a correction to his actions? And so you got to be mindful of, you are not enabling unhealthy behavior in a relationship. You are not essentially giving the signal that this is in some way acceptable. All right? And so you gotta back up that with not just your words, but your actions of letting him go, your actions of walking away, your actions of expressing to him, listen, if this can't be corrected, we can't continue. And then if he does it again, that's it. All right? But the message I really need you to understand is this. No matter the reason why a man is lying, and again, I think we all can agree, lying is wrong. We need to create a more honest, transparent environment in all of our relationships. We need to all be more honest and transparent as well. But the fact is, everyone on the face of this earth has told a lie before. Whether it be you view it as very small or big or whatever, everyone has done it. And I say that not to validate or make lying okay. I say that to, one, help you understand, do not internalize people lying or men lying. Because I see women who go to the situation and they're dwelling on, why did he lie? Why can't he just tell me the truth? And it's like, listen, it's really just all the things I mentioned in this video. But you don't need to view it as like, why did he lie to me, as if it's something about you. Now, again, I talked earlier about the whole, are we creating an environment that we can be honest and transparent? But ultimately, it's still, though we can contribute to some of these environments, it still boils down to this person's willingness to do what they need to do to be more honest and forthcoming. So don't internalize the man who lies, but also understand that we have all fallen short in this way. And I do think that there are some situations where a lie has been told and people are so quick to react and crucify and condemn. And it's like, take a step back, because you lied the other day. like think about it. It's like, wait a minute, you may have not got caught with your lie, but you lied too. So don't be so quick to demonize this individual for a lie. And notice I said a lie because, again, it's different. There's a difference between the person who tells a lie and the person who is a liar, as far as I see it. Because the liar, to me, is the person who continuously does this. It is part of their character. It is repeated behavior. Versus the person who is typically extremely honest with you, very open, but in a moment, they made the bad choice of not keeping it real for a deeper reason that is fixable. And we don't have to throw the whole relationship away. All right? So consider that. Consider that. But ultimately, know that honesty is what we need if we want to experience healthier and happier relationships. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So, when I do these videos, I love to give quotes. And I was searching for a quote for this video, and I stumbled on one that I thought was just like, this is perfect. Okay? So I want to read this quote. And it says, a strong